Hello, my name is Ned, and I'm the host of BlackBoxOnlineRadio. Welcome to the Debunking series, where I'm talking about some of the Zodiac killer suspects that I genuinely do not believe are the Zodiac killer. No devil's advocate, no playing around, not trying to weigh the merit of anybody else's idea. I genuinely do not believe that these suspects were the Zodiac. And the one I'd like to talk about today is Arthur Lee Allen, perhaps the most famous Zodiac killer suspect out there. And Arthur Lee Allen was not only the subject of the book Zodiac by Robert Graysmith, as well as the 2007 David Fincher film. Lee Allen was also the prime suspect of law enforcement, the authorities, the person that they named publicly that they were looking into this guy. So there's a very twofold approach that it comes to with Lee Allen. First, you have the general public's understanding in Graysmith's book, and then the film that came later on, and then you have the views of law enforcement, because those don't have to coincide. Graysmith certainly couldn't control the actions of the authorities, writing search warrants or directing the police in any single way. My biggest problems with Lee Allen relate to the theory that he was the Zodiac, writing the letters, committing the murders, making the phone calls, the entire package. And that's what I'll be discussing throughout the duration of this recording. Not talking about any sort of involvement or an accomplice theory. This video is going to be devoted to trying to debunk Arthur Lee Allen as the full package for being the Zodiac killer. Now, the first point that I would like to talk about is the elephant in the room. DNA, DNA, DNA. Arthur Lee Allen was famously exonerated with DNA evidence. And this isn't to say that it was anything taken from the crime scenes. It's touch DNA from around the stamp of one of the letters. So, instantly, as the letter writer, he's not looking very good for Arthur Lee Allen. That he was actually involved with this. I mean, depending on what you mean by not looking good. But also, the side palm print, which is also called writer's palm. Like when the hand is pressed against a piece of paper, then it leaves an impression on the paper itself. And that technology didn't exist in 1969. And at least one of the letters has come back and they've decided that this was not Arthur Lee Allen's writer's palm or side palm print. I believe that is the 1974 Exorcist letter, though. So that's another strike against him. It really seems like Lee Allen did not write the letters. But to talk about some stuff that is actually relevant to the crime scenes. Point number one. If you're going to say that Arthur Lee Allen is your Zodiac killer suspect, the way Robert Graysmith did, immediately you have to start making assumptions. You have to begin by saying that, well, he was a bold man, nothing wrong with being bold, but the Zodiac has hair in the composite sketch. In all of the witness descriptions, they never described a balding, moon-faced man with all of Arthur Lee Allen's physical characteristics. After the Blue Rock Springs shooting on July 4th of 1969, Mike Mageau said that he didn't recognize a single feature of the person who shot him. He just said the man had a face that was very big. So later on, Mike Mageau would point to a photo lineup and say that Arthur Lee Allen was the man who attacked him, but I don't find that citing very credible. Graysmith tried to justify his suspect Lee Allen by saying, well, that's because Arthur Lee Allen was wearing wigs when he committed the Zodiac murders. That's an assumption, not a fact. The book citing in on the Zodiac killer talks about how implausible it would be for somebody to have worn a wig at perhaps the Lake Berryessa stabbing, because at Lake Berryessa, the Zodiac killer put on the black hooded costume over atop his body, the one that has the clip-on sunglasses. It resembles an executioner's hood. It has the rectangular shape on top. If somebody were wearing a wig under that, it would be absolutely foolish. For the very simple fact that already there's this hooded costume that is practically blinding the perpetrator if it were just tilted to the side, let alone the wig could have come down and obstructed his view. Not to mention that this person is trying to commit murder, for goodness sake. This person is not trying to leave the victims alive. I don't believe that the Zodiac killer was bald, and I think Robert Graysmith was trying to fudge the facts to make it look like it was Arthur Lee Allen. And simply, I don't accept any of these descriptions of how it could be a wig and that it was actually balding Lee Allen underneath it. All of the witness accounts say that there was a man that had hair that might have been reddish brown with a few curls, and of course the very famous light colored hair in a crew cut after the Stein shooting on October 11th of 1969. Balding Lee Allen, not so much. The next point I would like to talk about is another case certain point, if you will, when I accuse Graysmith of fudging the facts. And that relates to the shoes that were found, or shoe prints rather, that were found at Lake Berryessa. They were wing walkers from the Air Force. I mean, they call them that because it's what you would use when you're standing on the wing of an airplane. And Lee Allen didn't wear shoes like that. He had gout in his feet. He wore almost exclusively tennis shoes, maybe sneakers. So what Graceman tried to say was that Lee Allen must have cut off the soles of wing walker boots and then glued them on top or to the bottom of his own shoes, depending on your outlook on life, top or bottom. Assumption, assumption, assumption. Where's his proof that that's what Lee Allen did on September 27th, 1969? It's guesswork. Now, maybe if your Zodiac killer suspect were Ted Kaczynski, who was definitively caught gluing the soles of different shoes together to disguise his footprints, Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, that is, then you could say, all right, well, he was caught doing this in the past. That's somewhat of a plausible theory. But Kaczynski's already been convicted of a whole set of other crimes. We know more about him. We don't have to fudge the facts the way that Robert Graysmith did. So, with Lee Allen, already his DNA is not matching the letters. Already, he's not matching the witness descriptions. And another big point with Lee Allen is something where I agree with the profiler Sharon Hagen. He was a sex offender. He committed sex offenses, crimes that were related to sex. The victims in the Zodiac killer mystery were not sexually assaulted. I do not believe that they were done by the same person. And I also frequently quote the YouTuber Brianne Clark, who simply brought this up about Arthur Lee Allen. Where is the evidence that a sex offender who targeted young males committed these crimes? I will tell you, it's not there. Because David Faraday was 17 years old when he was murdered on December 20th of 1968. He wasn't sexually assaulted. Mike Mageau was not sexually assaulted on the 4th of July. Brian Hartnell was not sexually assaulted on September 27th of 1969, and Paul Stein was not sexually assaulted on October 11th of 1969. Even if he is a gay sex offender, he is not targeting males in this way. He's not targeting the female victims in this way. That type of behavior is not present in the Zodiac crimes. Sure, you could make the case that the Zodiac was actually committing some type of sexually related thrill kill because in his own mind he is getting off on the experiences, but not in terms of molestation, the way that Arthur Lee Allen was actually convicted of and sent to a Atascadero nonetheless. Although, when he was in Atascadero, he did not see Earl Van Best Jr. We almost certainly know that as a fact. The long story short is, yes, Lee Allen was a criminal. Yes, he was a terrible person. And yes, he did some bad things, but was he the Zodiac killer? I don't believe so. And lastly, much of the narrative that the general public has comprehended about Arthur Lee Allen stems from the book Zodiac by Graysmith that was put out in 1986 and the Fincher film. Graysmith was caught lying. Arthur Lee Allen was not ambidextrous. I think that the way they presented that in the Fincher film is somewhat true and accurate when he says, "That's untrue. They tried to make me write with my right hand. I'm left-handed." So, Brian Hartnell, the surviving victim from the Lake Berryessa stabbing, talked about how the perpetrator stabbed him with his right hand, and if Lee Allen's dominant hand is left, and he's intending to kill the victims, implausible to have held it with his non-dominant hand. All of the signs are pointing away from Lee Allen. But that's not to say that he didn't have some greater involvement in this case, and that he wasn't an active participant in some way. There are numerous theories about how Leigh Allen was a simple messenger. He was the errand boy, the person who dropped letters in the mailbox, perhaps on March 13th, 1971, in Pleasanton, California. Or perhaps he was actually an active participant in the Lake Herman Road murders. There's a very large spectrum. But I do not believe that Arthur Leigh Allen committed the murders, wrote the letters, made the phone calls talking about the Carmen Gia and so on. I don't believe that he was the entire person responsible for the Zodiac killer crimes. But what do you think? Feel free to disagree with me. Share everything you want in the comments section below. Tell me all the reasons why I'm wrong. I welcome it. Why not? And you can always like and subscribe, and feel free to check out some other episodes in this debunking series. Until next time.